What is up, guys? How are you today? This is the UFC Year to Date review on the MMA Engine. I'm your host, Lou Betcha, and thanks for spending time with us today. If you get a chance, please hit the like button, or if you don't like it, don't hit the like button. But we'd appreciate if you subscribe. I got some interesting guests, some that are prominent YouTubers, some making their debuts on the medium, and you're not here to hear me ramble, so we're going to talk about best wins and losses of the year, what you've learned, what trends you see, and finally, what you're looking forward to the most. So without further ado, let me introduce my first guest. He is the 2021 DraftKings Ironman champion, the soon to be recognized DraftKings 2002 champion, and most importantly, the guy got his picture with Herb Dean last weekend, which is the biggest honor one can have.
Those are my most important accomplishments, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, Gordo Gambles, welcome to the show, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, but you killed that intro. Look at you go. I got some nice little music in my ears hanging out. No, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks very much for having me.
I learned from Bert. I'm trying to just get his cadence perfectly correct for these kind of shows. But so far this year, what are your favorite bets you've made? Your worst bets? Start there.
Worst bets. Well, luckily I've been on a bit of a hot streak, so we're gonna look at those ones. Let's see. I think the one's got to be the freshest one in my mind. It has to be a CLV bet that did not go wrong in Jack Shore. I mean, it's not like the whole world wasn't on it too, but when you get a number at plus 150 that closes at minus 120, you got to look back and be happy about something, because usually CLV just comes around and kicks you in the ass, right? So that always feels good when you hit one of those. That's the one that's freshest in my mind. But I'm a DraftKings player at heart. So there's been a lot of things that have been just a weird year, right? Like the first event of the year, we had a 7.5K favorite, 88% owned. Like
ownership's going up for a lot of these favorites now. I've noticed you're not getting the 30-40% ownership. Some of these guys, like Kazraev, I think was he's 72, or he was up there. I mean, it's hard to handicap the field that way, but
for sure too. And especially in a week that's coming up when I'm preparing for UFC 273, when you have the likes of Chimaev, when you have minus 800 favorites out there, like DFS has been crazy this week, this whole year. And that's why you look back on some of the betting things. And I like I mentioned the CLV one, but a play that probably goes hand in hand with both my DFS and betting was my biggest bet of the year, not tracked, but untracked. Most money I've had in a fight was on Ludovic Klein at plus money, which is really weird. I don't know why. Why is it like that? That's why I'm a DFS play, not a better.
And he didn't get him out of there either. I had him in the distance against.
Yeah.
It was crazy that fight went the distance. That was a shocking result that they, and he looked all right. That for short notice, he looked good.
Man, I had him plus 170. It was one of my biggest bets, and I lost a lot of profit on that inside the distance as well, man, because it killed me. You're right. But no, there's been some really, really fun fights this year. I haven't had much action as I wanted on some of those fun ones, like seeing Matt Brown last week in person was super fun to watch, but I didn't have the most money on it. But yeah, it's been a crazy, crazy year. So just looking back and going through all the history of the Ironman, which is how I looked at all the slates, and seeing some, like, remembering the 150-point performance from Favola. Just what a weird year to start it off, eh?
I hate to say that I was not on the right side of that one. That was pretty much the end of my night. But I got Billy Q when he scored like 7,000 points last year. Yeah. And then I think it's been all downhill since there. I took 8th in that slate. And if not for I don't know why her name's not coming to me now, but what was the co-main of that one? It was Randy Me against Amisha Tate, putting up like just a monster performance. But I just stick to the betting. I get the guys on my team are far, far better at DraftKings lineups than I am. But what are you looking forward to? Like, are any trends you're seeing like in these 3 months? You mentioned with DraftKings, it's getting a little weirder. We're having some kind of strange results. Like, is there any other trends that you're seeing just from a results perspective in betting, or anything that you're seeing right now that you think is going to sustain the rest of the year?
Like, we've had a lot of split prizes, but being contrarian, just like you said, with that that ownership is just getting to be a lot less prominent. I think a lot of people are going towards that chalk, and like you said, we're getting a lot more favorites, and having those lineups that are just completely contrarian, completely out of the blue, are less seen. So you're able to win a lot bigger, because I mean, I'm saying this coming off a week where a lot of people shared first place, but we've had some weeks where it's just been a single guy, 2 guys splitting the top prize. So I think that we're getting less and less contrarian plays, which is really weird this year. But I think it's been something that I can look into more, because I am unfortunately a guy who likes to go with chalk, but I think that contrarian plays are going to be the way to go, especially if guys are going to keep on getting this ownership. I don't know what Chimaev is going to come in ownership wise next weekend, but maybe just having those contrarian plays that can go a lot bigger because we're seeing some underdogs do pretty well.
I'm going to ask this question on the fly to everybody because I feel like this is important for what's come up next week. But you're seeing a lot of chalky parlays already with Chimaev and Jan and Volk. And out of the three of them, which one, not just from a betting, but from a DraftKings perspective, which one do you think has, as Cody Saftik likes to say, which one would be the apple pie shitter potentially out of the three of them?
See, it's crazy to say that because I'm one of those guys with limited tickets for all three, so I'm not gonna say much. But I think it's from a DraftKings perspective, I'm gonna have the most ownership on Sterling. I think
Okay.
that he has the better floor out of the three. But if I have to give a guy give the best chance to, for some reason I'm thinking the Korean Zombie. I don't know
Really?
why. Yeah, we've seen Volk stun before. What I like the most about TKZ is he's just a smart guy. Is it gonna happen? Probably not, but I think Yan's too well-rounded to lose this fight here. I think he got that one in the bag, and I'm on the Chimaev hype train, so that leaves one, and that's gonna be Volk shit in the pie for me.
I'm very much looking forward to watching Smash fight. I mean, it's going to come down to how nervous. I feel like there's like a level of nervousness now.
Mm.
It's not just the hype. It's like, oh my God, this guy, like, he's either going to go out there and win in 45 seconds or like, oh no. Like, but I
Yeah.
don't see Burns going to either. What fight are you looking forward to the most? Or it doesn't even have to be a fight, but what are you looking forward to the most, like over the next 9 months in terms of
Ooh.
something we're going to say?
See, it's funny. I was just about to mention this right before this. Is maybe the reason why I think Volk shits the pie is because maybe I am a little bit of a Holloway fan. So I'm excited to see get back in the octagon. But I want to see these fighters coming back in and making a name for themselves. I know Chimaev fights this weekend, so it's gonna be a popular option for people to say they're excited to see him go. But other fighters who are making big names for themselves come out here. I love to see those hype trains perform because you get the huge divide of are they ready, are they not ready. Coming to see Paddy Pimblett fight again next time. I don't care who he faces. It's going to be a fun week building up to it just because there's going to be people saying he's not ready. And who knows if he gets a hand-tailored matchup or not. I'm excited to see a lot of things. I think maybe, sorry, so many thoughts going through my head. I apologize. But it's a year with a lot of things coming up that I'm really looking forward to. And for some reason, the name that's at the top of my mind is probably the king of hype himself. But I want to see O'Malley go up against a wrestler. I don't know why. That's just something that's in my mind.
Yeah, Paiva didn't get a chance to even test it, but it's going to be interesting to see his evolution. His Twitter game is sick too. So let me ask you this before I let you go. You brought up O'Malley and like bringing up Pimblett, and these guys have both been vocal about why would I want to move up if I'm not getting paid. And I know fighter pay beyond what Jake Paul's talking about. Show and win pay has been kind of a real hot button the last month. Like, do you think the salaries are justified? Do you think it's a matter of you sign this contract, man? Like you gotta acknowledge, you gotta like adhere to it. Like, what do you think? Is it somewhere in the middle? Like, what do you think about where we're at in terms of what the UFC makes versus what these guys are paid just a win bonus alone?
Oh, well, I'm definitely think that fighters get paid a lot more, but that's something that I think I need to know a lot more about. There's definitely stuff that happens behind the scenes that I don't know about contract wise
Absolutely.
and stuff. But looking at fighter pay last week, I work for a company, so I was looking at these. I was writing an article about it, and didn't Askarov make like 12K or 26K or something like
I
that,
think
which
I
is
think it was 26-20. It would have been
26.
26 to win. Well, he's got his management team, and look who he's faced at this point. So his management team hates him.
Insane. So of
Yeah,
course you want to see fighters get paid a lot more. I like what they did with everyone getting that performance bonus last time. I think that's
yeah.
something that should be around more often. If you go out there, you put a huge finish out there, you should probably get paid more than someone who wins a split decision, right? Get the
That's
performance of the night.
that's like
So
two hands of blackjack for Dana White too. I mean, it's not like
exactly, man. It's
I mean,
like
two winning
one
hands.
commercial, one
So,
ad.
before I let you go, is there anything you want to plug? Anything you want to talk about? Like, tell the
Oh, the
people.
plug.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, first
It's
of all, I
not,
appreciate you having me on. It was
of
a lot of
course.
fun just looking back on all the slates and seeing how it went, seeing where I got my ass kicked taking Giga Chikadze that very first week, seeing where things went well, seeing RDA get that ownership at 7.3K. It's been a really fun time going back, and I appreciate you having me on, just talking about these things, making me think about what do I want to see here in the future. But no, if you want to know more about me, I'm Gordo Gambles. You can find me on YouTube at Plays and Fade Sports. I've been putting out a bunch of DFS plays. I'm waiting for my MLB to start. Where's my jersey that side? There we go. I'm just a guy who loves sports. So if you guys want to check me out, feel free to. I'm coming off of a great weekend just watching the fights in person. So I'm finally relaxed, and it's been a pleasure getting my setup back up just to come talk with you.
Always like having East Coast people on the show, of course, being a fellow East Coaster, even if I can't say I'm a big fan of that Penguins jersey sitting behind
Oh, I
you.
apologize, man.
Ah,
I apologize.
I know the Flyers are a disaster. It is what it is. But
Hey, good Canadian goalie there.
yeah. Gordo, thank you so much for your time, man. Guys, go follow Gordo Gambles. He is like one of the, if not the top DraftKings guy out there. I would listen to what he has to say. Definitely don't listen to my advice because I would be like, why can't I put Santos in all my lineups like 6 times and just really save money? But Gordo, thanks again for coming on, man. Talk to you soon.
I appreciate you. Have a good one.
All right. That was awesome with Gordo. Let's get to the next guest. Let's keep this moving. My next guest is making his YouTube debut. He is one of the nicest guys I've ever talked to on here. He's starting to write articles. He puts them available on his Substack. Please welcome to the show one of my new friends. His name's Mike. He's a postman. Postman Picks MMA. What's going on, my man?
What's up, man? How you doing, buddy?
How's it going? Good. How are you, man?
Good, man. I'm doing good. Sorry about the little mix-up, but I thought I was gonna get on time, but I'm glad I could make it anyways.
As somebody who's a computer programmer for a living, if anything goes smoothly, I panic because there's no reason it should go smoothly off the bat. But let's get right into it, man. Like, let's just start out. What's your best bets you've made, your worst bets you've made to this point in the year?
So when you made that post, the first thing I thought about, and it's probably one of Twitter's best bets was the Terrence McKinney sub at plus 900 over for ACM. I mean,
yeah.
it must have been like the books didn't even look at Wiki and see that, most of his wins came by submission. So having it that high was just completely ridiculous. I mean, other than that, I wrote a couple down just so I didn't forget. McKinney sub. Actually, I wrote a lot of the worst bets down because that's kind of how my year's been going this year.
I mean, honestly, that's probably why people are tuning in. They don't want to hear like anybody's success. They just want to hear people losing. But what do you got for that? I mean, if you can learn from it, it's not really like that's how you move on. As long as you get some. So what do you got?
So I think the worst one of the year was probably taking the Thiago Santos Ankalaev fight not to go the distance. And I learned my lesson because he's not the same Thiago Santos that he used to be.
No, he's not.
And I don't have any interest in seeing anymore. No offense to Thiago, but I just don't have interest in seeing any more of those fights, man. They're just
he doesn't look so it just went. Sometimes you're an athlete and it goes when it goes. I don't want to spoil anything for later in the show, but I have another guest coming on and he's not going to say his worst bet, but I'm telling you, because I made the bet for him, his worst bet is the under in that Santos ankle.
There you go.
So what else do you got on that list?
Oh, well, when I made this post on Twitter, I said I was prepared to take all the heat for it because I bet on Chris Moutinho against Guido Canetti at I think minus 140. And I was prepared to take the heat for that one, and it didn't go so well.
It was I was talking to a buddy of mine. I was thinking, I'm a round prop guy, and I was like, man, Canetti's his only path here is round 1 knockout, and I'm like 12-1 against the guy who he's known for getting punched. I took a stab on it, and then it all went downhill that card for me.
Yeah,
but I started off good, but so what are you seeing like as an evolution? Like, what are you learning so far for these few couple of months? Like, are there any trends you're picking up or?
It's a pretty obvious trend, but betting on these guys that have a significant wrestling game and can just continue to wrestle. And I mean, they obviously have to be able to take a shot too. I didn't list it on my worst bet because it was a dog play, but I bet Edson Barbosa against Bryce Mitchell, and that was just that that was a lesson right there that kind of made me realize like you can't. It's really hard to beat these guys that can just keep shooting one after another, and they don't get discouraged.
I'm curious. So I was on the Barbosa. I think I had it. Oh, but if it didn't go to the scorecards, I mitigated a little bit that. When you looked at that fight, did you see? Was it more of a fade against Bryce Mitchell's game? Or did you just think that Barbosa was really going to be too much for him on the feet? I mean, because
it was a little bit of both, if I'm being honest, because because Bryce Mitchell's still so young. I mean, we've seen him in the UFC. He's spent a majority of his career in the UFC, so we've seen him a lot. But he had been off for a little while, and honestly, I thought Barbosa was going to be too much on the feet. But then he comes out and drops Barbosa, and I knew right then that that wasn't going my way.
Yeah, that was. I mean, it's not that I don't think Mitchell has been bad at all, but that was very impressive how he was able to establish as well. And I agree with you. The wrestlers so far this year, Dan Levy likes to talk about this a lot, but like the Ronnie Lawrences, Malkoon, like these guys that can go 15 minutes and never get tired, just spamming takedowns are, it seems like we're in that era of the wrestler now. Yeah. So I'm going to ask you, like, now I'm going to shift to a different question. One of the fights I'm looking forward to the most coming up is Teixeira against Prochazka. And I'm starting to wonder with this trend, do you think that a guy who is known for being a pure striker can really be a long-term sustained champion in the UFC anymore?
That's tough. Because, you know, it really depends on how well they can deal with these wrestlers, because like you said, I mean, the top 15s of a lot of these divisions are loaded with these guys that can just wrestle, and it's definitely going to be tough for someone to be able to do that. But I mean, like, we haven't seen a lot of Prochazka. We've seen all these, you know, amazing finishes and all this stuff and whatever else. But I think it's going to be a tough fight for him because Glover's got some tricks, and if you got tricks, I mean, that can get you far.
Yeah, I think if you're holding a Prochazka, and I haven't just, I mean, that's too far out for me to bet, but I think if you're holding a Prochazka ticket and this fight hits the ground in the first 60 seconds, you're getting into panic mode, because we really haven't seen too much. It doesn't mean he's not, you know, I don't want to make the mistake and say he doesn't have ability on the ground just because he prefers to strike, but it becomes an interesting matchup if that thing does hit the ground and gets into the deep waters of a championship fight. But
sure.
So what are you looking forward to the most? And what else is, like, as you've becoming someone who's putting his picks out there and standing behind his picks, like, what are you noticing as reactions to the community, like, for you putting yourself out there?
So with the first question, I mean, I think the thing that I'm, especially with these last couple weeks that have happened, I mean, this freaking heavyweight division is turning into a really fun division, man. I mean,
yeah.
I think I mean, it's not something that I saw a lot, but I think, at least in my mind, I kind of put Curtis Blades a little bit out of my mind. But after what he did in that fight, I mean, that's just super impressive, where he completely dominated a fight where he didn't shoot one takedown. I mean, who would have thought? Who would have thought that would have even happened? So, and then, you know, you obviously got what was the fight before that? I'm completely blanking. Yes, that one. I mean, the way he took out Volkov. I mean, it seems like heavyweight is really changing of the guard right now, and, you know, they're kind of getting out these, you know, veteran type guys, and these new up and comers are just they're fun to watch, man. So that division has me definitely excited for the future.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think the longer it goes on, before we thanks for stealing, I was going to say this later, but you beat me to it. The longer we go until there's a clear path as to how we're going to settle the title, the more guys are making a case. Like, I mean, Aspinall still, to me, I feel like he's 1 or 2 fights away, but I thought Gane might have been 1 or 2 fights away, and Dana White disagreed. He's like, let's get him in there. And, you know, you got Aspinall, you got Blades, you got Gane. People are, you know, I feel like he's becoming a forgotten guy now. You still got Stipe Miocic, who I know he's older, but he hasn't had a rematch. John Jones is hanging out there. You know, it's exciting. Like, I agree with you. Like, there are a lot of interesting prospects. I don't think they'll ever bring back a tournament, but man, that'd be fun if they could ever
right,
do like a one-night tournament for the belt. But and what else, as you're starting to, like, I mean, I'm new to this game too, so you and I are going through it together. What do you notice as you're putting more of your picks out there, your knowledge, sharing what you're betting and standing behind it? Like, what are you noticing, like, your reactions are getting? Like, are they positive, are they negative? Are you, like, how do you feel doing it to this point?
I mean, in terms of the reactions, they're mostly positive. I mean, obviously, you know, you can see with this community, I mean, you got guys that have a huge following, like you mentioned, Dan Levy or Clint or any of these guys, but they're not opposed to interacting with people like you and me or anything else. So, like, this community is actually, it's a really, like, welcoming community. You got a couple jerk offs here and there that, you know, like, I guess I'll just bring this up now. What I had messaged you about earlier. I'll tell a little story about some guy that I had to block because of some little comments he made. But so anyways, I had somebody come to me and say, why would I listen to you when you're only betting $20 per unit? And to me, it's not about how much money you're putting down, because it differs from person to person. If you're putting down more money on a bet, all that really means to me is that you have more money to gamble.
Right.
It holds no weight in my mind of like my opinion of you or my opinion of your content or whatever. It doesn't matter. If you're putting out good information, I could care less how much you're betting on a fight. If you're betting $1 per unit, it doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is the content you put out. So I've seen it a couple times here and there, but like I said, this whole community is usually so welcoming that it's not very common, but it is something that even in the short 3 months that I've been doing it, I've already experienced it, So
Yeah,
it's
I get lucky. I get lucky with my soccer bets. I think it mitigates how bad my MMA bets have been the last couple weeks. I want to make a comment on top of that too, because I have seen people. I never reveal how much I bet because it's nobody's business. To be honest, like it's my own finances, and I've been gambling for over 20 years because I'm old as shit, and and like what I bet on fights is varied. But to me, I have a lot more trust and respect in somebody like you who can mitigate the bankroll, like bankroll management, because it shows that not only are you responsible, but that you're looking at this as a long-term commitment, like that you're looking at it like, okay, it's one event, I have $1,000 in my bank account, like let's fucking go. It's like, well, I'm going for long-term success, and your unit count will go up and up as you build it. I think that's more responsible. I see people that are like 36 units on, and I'm like, okay, but like, what is that? Like, what is that related to? Like, if I look at your bets, Mike, and I see like you have 1 unit on this fight and you have 3 units on this, that's all I need. The scale of like your confidence level is what I'm looking for. I don't care how much you bet. Like, a lot of people have families. A lot of people don't have huge disposable income, or like a lot of people realize they work too hard for their money and don't want to take their paycheck and go all in. And I have a lot of respect for people that do that, that know how to balance their role. And it's crazy that like you're such a nice guy and you get hate for this. Like, you brought up Clint. Like, my God, dude, he,
God.
the guy finally has like 1 or 2 bad weeks, and it's like, you suck. Like, you're the worst. Like, go, and it's like, wow. Like, people were doing this to like Lock 1 week, and I'm like, he's like the nicest guy. Like,
Yep.
what are you doing, man? Like, it's crazy to me to see like that this is a trend. But what do you hope, like, as you're growing as a handicapper, like, do you have any advice for people that are just starting out? Since, like I said, you and I are like new to this game, like we're going to be battling for Rookie of the Year, you son of a bitch.
I'm coming for it.
I know.
I mean, I don't think I'm in a position to give any advice at this point, but I mean, something that, I guess what I would say is like, if you want to do it, just do it, and just do it your way, and do what you want to do, and put stuff out there. And if you want to, like, for instance, I made myself a Substack, and I put out articles, and if I get 7 people to read them, that's fine. You can read it if you want to read it. If you don't want to read it, don't read it. But I'm putting it out there because it's something that helps me too. Because if I sit down and I physically write out this stuff, it makes me think about, oh, maybe it makes me kind of look deeper into things and kind of get a better perspective. So, it's just, if you want to do it, go for it. That's basically what I would say.
Everybody learns differently, and I'm like you. I'm one of these people that you should. I mean, I'm a computer guy, so like I realize this is going to sound strange, but I just like write everything. Like I just write, I write, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm going to bet that instead of what I initially thought. Like, because now I'm like, yeah, I learned that way too. But anything else you want to plug before I let you go for the day, or?
No, I mean, just my Twitter handle's right there at Postman Picks MMA. You can subscribe to the Substack right on my page. I'm doing a little giveaway. I'm giving away a couple cards. I got a Alexander Volkanovski card, a Peter Yan card. The tweet's pinned to my profile. You go there, you see it. It explains what to do. It's pretty simple. So, if you want to get on that, just head over and check it out.
I have a feeling this will not be not the last time you see Postman Mike, but hopefully this will not be the last time you see him on our channel. It's been a pleasure to have you on, man. Like, glad you could take time for us today. I really appreciate it.
hopefully this is the last time you see me in my car. That's
it is it is a nice car, and I do like
thanks,
I do like the Raiders sticker you got on the back.
Yeah.
You guys got you guys got Devontae Adams. It's probably
man, we were rolling this free agency, man. We got
quick thoughts. Do you like Carr or not? Is he underrated? All right, thank you, because I think
I love Carr. I hate when people talk shit about him because I love him.
I think he's solid. But dude, thanks for spending time with us today. Have a great day. We will be in touch soon, my man.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much.
Take care. All right, rolling on. Now, before I get to my next guest, who I'm going to introduce as not only a guy who makes great content, but a fellow old man who loves prop bets. He's fun. I did mention to Tim Troiano and my friend Adam that perhaps I would do an imitation for them because they asked. So at the very least, while I bring this man on, I'm going to start stripping and preparing for it. He's Eric. He lives in Vegas. The guy bets fights. Ladies and gentlemen, Eric bets fights. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. This is not a disaster yet, although I see my next guests and one of them's in a tie, and I'm starting to have a panic attack. But,
dude, you're killing it. You're like Phil Donahue up in here.
That's high praise.
Had to make an old man reference. Nobody knows what we're talking about.
I was gonna, I for whatever reason, when you said that, I was gonna start doing like the Ed McMahon imitation. Yes, oh great one.
Yeah,
but Phil Donahue was more. I can only hear Phil Hartman imitating Phil Donahue.
Yep.
In my head. For those of you guys who don't know who that is, he's a talk show host from the '80s that I believe was married to Marlo Thomas, if I'm not mistaken. You're the trivia guy, not me. It's Marlo.
I don't know. I don't know that one.
Okay. But Donahue was, a staple of everybody's daytime viewing that was unemployed in the '80s. So
straight up,
Eric, let's get right into it, my man. Look, you and I talk all the time. You are what I would call not a chalk better.
Not generally. I've started to be a little bit lately, but
Eric is a man after my own heart with fading chalk completely. And he is in the prop market with me a lot. Eric, talk to me, man. As I disrobe, please talk to me about you knew I was going to have to just do some kind of fucking with you when I got you on, but just please talk to me about your best bets and worst bets to this point of the UFC betting season.
I think my responses to those are going to be more about like just kind of styles of bets, because I'm still fairly new to this too. I mean, I've been betting on fights like off and on. I mean, I think the first bet I ever made on an MMA fight was the first Chuck Liddell Randy Couture fight, so a long time ago. But I've just kind of bet here and there. I just started taking it seriously recently, so I'm still kind of figuring out who I am as a gambler exactly. But where I butter my bread so far is 2-fight parlays for the most part. I've been messing around with bigger parlays and that sort of thing too, but I went through and wrote down a bunch of notes here. So far this year, I'm 11-6 on 2-leg parlays.
Nice.
Averaging and parlays overall, since I started tracking, I'm 35-22 for 61%, average odds of +125 and ROI of 43%. So that's really where I've been making it happen, is with parlays for the most part. Nice. But like you said, I don't normally bet chalk straight up, but I've been kind of messing around with that a little bit lately, just because it's something I've always avoided. And I thought, well, I look at a lot of the top bettors on Bet MMA Tips, and I see a lot of them do go really heavy in certain chalk spots when they're really confident. So I've kind of been playing around with that a little bit. People are going to think I'm crazy, but I bet 8 units on Manon Fiorot in that last fight because I was entirely confident that she was going to win. It played out a lot more sweaty.
I think you're crazy for different reasons. These
sure,
are not, it's not mutually exclusive, like why I think one person would be crazy or not. But that you weren't sweating that much. I mean,
but so like I am trying to, I used to, if I'd look at a line that was like +200 or worse, I'd be like, yeah, I'll parlay that, but I'm not touching it straight. But I'm trying to like slow down and be like, all right, well, let's find the value in those spots as well. So I've been trying to bet those a little more and just kind of round out my game and how I'm approaching it, I guess you could say.
What about the, let's get to the bad ones. Although I don't think your draw bet last week was bad.
Yeah, no, I don't either. I think that
Rose Rosa, right? Rosa,
yeah, I bet the draw in McMahon Rosa, the idea being that McMahon could win the first 2 rounds 10-9 and then tire out and lose around 3 10-8. I mean, the logic was there, the reasoning was there. It didn't play out that way, but
if she stood her up, you might have gotten there.
Yeah,
if she stood her up. I mean,
and I did actually bet the the McMahon by decision prop at plus 400 there, so it worked out okay for me anyway. I made some money on that one, not on the draw, but it was.
But now you're just showing off. Let's get to the worst.
But like, as far as bad bets, like I was watching when you were talking to Gordo at the beginning, so hearing some of the questions you were asking. So then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to pull up my record here so I can be ready for some of these questions. So I looked through a bunch of my straight plays just to see like, all right, well, what's like the worst, like what's the biggest favorite that I've bet on so far this year that didn't win? And it was actually Ji-Yeon Kim versus Cachoeira, and she was only minus 155. So that's actually that's the chalkiest loss that I've had so far. But I don't really bet a lot of chalk, like we said. So
gotcha. So what are you seeing as trends developing in these last couple of months? I think we've had some good answers to this point. Like I'm actually like, and I'm like, man, Gordo stole my one thing, and then Mike stole my other thing. So like, I only got one thing left, so go ahead and steal it, Eric. Like I got no other trends left.
I don't think I am going to steal it because I'm kind of going to echo what was already said. Like I've been really big on just the idea of looking for those fighters who, like we talked about, Maximov would be one, Curtis Blades would be one, Bryce Mitchell being another, like the guys who not only are great grapplers and have a great takedown game, but are willing to really push it and have the cardio to really push it. I think those are fighters that I'm looking to bet on. Those are fighters that are tough to beat. I mean, there's a lot of guys who are great wrestlers, guys and women who are great wrestlers, but they might try one takedown, and if they don't get it, they're scared to try again because they know they're going to tire themselves out. But the people that are able to continue pushing that game plan, those are the kind of fighters that I'm looking to bet on a lot of the time here.
I just see Wheezy talking about his boy.
Don't forget JSP.
His boy Pierce, who, well, in all fairness, he surprisingly looked tired. I think a lot of us had him in the distance, and that was a fun fight. It was just but his traditionally, he is just a cardio machine. What are you looking forward to in terms of fights? You are, of course, Colby Covington as well, man. He's another, pacey guy. What are you looking forward to? What fights are coming up? Now I know that like you are, as you self-proclaimed fight nerd, so you got guys coming up like for the next months that you've probably been looking forward to for a year. Some of these fights.
One thing that I'm really excited to, I tend to really focus on the card that's in front of me. And a lot of times I don't look ahead all that much. Like once an event is done on Saturday and then I jump into tape on Sunday, I look at the card and I'm like, oh, this fight is a week from now. And I didn't even know it was happening. Cause I don't even really look ahead that much. But as far as what I'm looking forward to in general, this is kind of contrarian to most MMA fans, I think, but I love heavyweight MMA. I always have. I even love awful heavyweight MMA. I love low level, sloppy, fat heavyweight MMA. I love heavyweights.
This is a non-Porter Porker zone, by the way. It's a non-Porker zone. Do not bring him up. I won't. That sentence. Do not bring him up. He's dead to me.
But I'm just I think Postman Mike kind of mentioned this already, but just what's going on at heavyweight right now? We see as the years go by, we see periods of time where heavyweight is really weak and there's just not much going on and not much excitement, and we're really, I think, hitting a peak right now of heavyweight being a lot of fun with Aspinall coming up in Tuivasa, and Curtis Blades is still only 30 years old. After that, I've already been a believer for a long time that Curtis Blades is eventually going to be the heavyweight champion, and after that last performance, I'm like, now it's just about like, wow, Curtis Blades might reign as heavyweight champion for a long time when that time comes, because the dude's 30. He's still going to be in the UFC for 20 years.
It feels like he's been around for way longer than being 30 years old. He did start young. So let me ask you a question then. So as somebody who's been around watching combat sports for a long time, like you're talking about the heavyweight division, and I'm an old school when it was good. I was an old school boxing fan. And to me, I always used to say that boxing was as good as the heavyweight division goes. Like there's more interest in boxing in America if there's an American heavyweight champion. I feel like when the Klitschko's were champion, kind of was like, all these fights are in like, 4 a.m. So like, we don't really get a chance to see a lot of them. Did you grow up like as a fan of boxing at all? Like, does that have anything to do with your love of the heavyweight division?
No, I've actually never watched boxing, but I became a fan of the UFC with UFC 2. I rented the VHS when I was like 15 years old, and I was one of those people who was immediately hooked, like to the extent that I could follow MMA. I mean, obviously that we didn't have the internet then and stuff, so it was mostly like in magazines. I always read Black Belt magazine and stuff like that. But so I followed MMA as much as I could right from the start. And then as soon as the Underground forum was there and the Sherdog forum and stuff, I was spending hours a day on those things, like in my early 20s. So I've pretty much been a diehard fan, following the sport as closely as I could since the very beginning. But I've never really followed boxing at all, no.
Well, let me, as I'm doing these things on the fly, then let me switch the question. Out of all the heavyweights in that era, like Severins and Don Fries and Shamrocks, like which one of these guys, I mean, I think I already know the answer because I just said it, but I'm asking anyway. Out of all these guys that were in these tournaments early on, non-Harold Howard division, who was the GOAT, which heavyweight or one of these guys do you think would have done well in the modern era of MMA with their style?
I'm guessing when you said you think you already said it, you were probably referring to Don Fry, right?
No, Severin, because
okay.
I feel like he's an endless. I honestly, I think he's still the National Wrestling Alliance. Like he's still like a pro wrestling champion of this day.
Yeah.
He's like 60, which is wild to me that he's like, I'll beat these sons of bitches, these whippersnappers.
Yeah, and I mean, he's a guy that didn't really have a striking game, but he didn't really need one at the time. I mean, he'd probably need to develop a little bit more of that now.
Right.
And Don Fry was, pretty small, but I think Don Fry is a great example of a guy who was a really well-rounded fighter early on when not a lot of people were. I mean, he had a pretty solid boxing game and a pretty solid wrestling game early on. I was a huge fan of Mark Coleman, and then I was also a huge fan of Mark Kerr, who they were both pretty limited, but were guys that, I mean, Mark Kerr was just such a physical specimen, so athletic, so powerful, great wrestler. Like if he would have taken the time to round out his game a little more and hadn't had the kind of personal issues that he ended up having, he could have been, I mean, he was something pretty special, but he could have been even more special, I think.
Yeah, the heavyweight got weird with like Tim Sylvia got involved. Josh Barnett is like one of my guys that like I don't know if you know what he's doing now, but you know that I'm like into pro wrestling a little bit.
Yeah.
Josh Barnett does some commentary for Japanese wrestling, which I don't know if you and I talked about Japanese wrestling in the last 24 hours.
We definitely did in the last 12 hours, probably.
But he does these things called Bloodsport, which are really interesting events. They're wrestling events with no ropes. They're interesting hybrids of like pro wrestling and MMA. And they're interesting because it's hard to do like a scripted MMA fight. Like I don't think you really can get away with it, but he's adding a lot of realism to it. And it's kind of like an interesting alternative. If you're ever like bored, you're like, I just want to see something a little different. But so, like, is there anything you want to plug right now? Like, obviously, like, you're my buddy, and I'm putting on my glasses and doing the Macho Man imitation before I left you off the show, and there's just not a goddamn thing you can do about it. But
hell yeah.
But tell about the projects coming up, like your shows. You're doing a couple of new shows now. I believe you're doing Propping You Up. Is that, or not Propping You Up? Improbable Bets.
Yep. Yeah. I do. Yeah, you can find me on YouTube at Eric Betts Fights. I've been putting out, I do my usual like full card breakdown where I just kind of talk about the bets I've got and some bets I'm looking at and that kind of thing. But just last week, I added a new show. I'm calling it Big Money Bets, where I'm just kind of not going through the whole card, but I'm kind of going through and just sharing some parlays that I like and some props that I like and that sort of thing. And I do have, when I've had time and we've had breaks, I've also put together kind of some other sorts of videos. Like I have a video on my YouTube where I did a fake interview of George St. Pierre. I'm really proud of how that one turned out. Where I just
like Weird Al style.
Yeah, pretty much. I spliced together interview footage of George St. Pierre and then I kind of wrote out a script, and it's sort of a goofy thing. And then I also have a video called The 5 Weirdest Things I Did as an MMA Fan in the 90s. And you just mentioned Josh Barnett putting on these shows with no ropes. I tell a story in there about the very first live MMA event I ever went to. It was in 1998 in South Dakota, and it took place on a wrestling mat in a park with no ropes or anything and just folding chairs around it. And fights are taking place on this wrestling mat. So that was pretty wild.
I went to, when I went to college so I went to school near where the Jackass guys are, like in Pennsylvania. And they'd come up, like, they were a couple years younger than me, but they'd come up when I was a senior, and we were doing like backyard wrestling stuff back then with like no ropes. And, like just one of these days I want to see somebody hit the figure 4 in a UFC fight. I don't think it's legal or like practical to do it, but I think it would be awesome. But
yeah, dude.
But since I get to threaten you, and speaking of wrestling, and I know Tim Troiano, like at some point has to listen to this, he promised me. But Eric, if you ever want to go with me, can have a cup of coffee in the big time with the macho man, Lou Betcha. Yeah, you are but a grain of sand in the kingdom that is macho madness. But no matter how many times you fight me, I'm gonna win every time because the cream always rises to the top. Dig it. And that is the end of the Macho Man imitation. So I
That
hope
was worth the price of admission right there. We've got happy viewers.
I hope that clip goes very far. One last question for you. So as somebody who's been doing content and is getting more and more established, and like, not like your love of the sports change, but as you're getting more and more into content, do you have advice for people, let's say guys that are talking right now, or other people like Mike was just on, do you have advice for people that are kind of just getting their feet wet in the content game, in terms of like, what do you need personality wise, like time you want to spend? Any advice that you've picked up as you've become a content creator? What do you think is valuable?
You know, the first thing that comes to mind for me is to just kind of, as far as setting your mindset as to why you're doing it. Like, I mean, some people maybe get into it with the idea that, okay, I want to do this for a living, or I want to have X number of followers. Like, I'm a person who, I've kind of talked to you about this before. I'm not a big like goal setter, and I'm not a big like looking ahead, like this is what I want to do a year from now or whatever. I kind of just do whatever feels good to me. And really I make content because it's fun for me. I like to do it. It makes me feel closer to the sport. It makes me learn more about the sport that I love. And so the followers that I get, if I get positive reactions to it and stuff, to me, that's all just like icing on the cake, because I'm really just kind of doing it for me. So I think in my mind, that's really the best piece of advice. Is like, if you're thinking about starting to get into content creation, or starting to get into tracking your bets, or putting your bets out there or whatever, you know, you're going to get positive reactions. You're going to get negative reactions. I think, you know, set your mindset that you're just kind of doing it because you love to do it and you want to do it, and whatever happens from there happens, you know, if that makes sense.
That's awesome. No, I mean, like, it's funny, like when I started, you know, like this came about because I'm part of a cartel syndicate, whatever other horrible word you come up with Uncle Easy and with Monk Maddox and with Brady. And I never really had any intention on being a content creator at all. I'd want to be the Wizard of Oz behind the programming. What I never realized is, like, I just watched Wheezy the first week that we're a company, like in January, and oh my God, the guy has no time, because it's tons of tape study, and then it's your own content, and then it's your own content, and then it's Wheezy. So like everybody's like, Wheezy, come on my show. So like all of a sudden, like Wheezy's in demand, and he's telling me Thursdays, he's like, I am looking forward to no content the next 2 days. And then it's like, I hope Wheezy will do the show with me. I'm like, all right. So like, it is, I never realized how time consuming it was going to be. And I salute all you guys, like getting the peek behind the veil as to how, like, my tape study is I watch Bird MMA, but you guys take it very seriously and, you know, really do a good job. So I just want to salute you, sir. You're my friend. And soon enough, we'll be doing prop shows together with these. Oh, and also I can't leave Eric without saying that if you followed my Twitter at all, you realize that I'm like a child, and I root for these yam bag bets. I root for people to get hit in the balls at 20-1. I actually have to thank Andrew Gombis for pointing out that I could bet this. And now I've got Eric, like, just him and like Asphalt I see in chat, like, they're just blowing me up during these fights. It's like, take the point. Like, did you bet this? I'm like, yes, I got the point. It's like, take the point, you fucking son of a bitch.
Love it.
And I think it's pretty funny. Actually, Asphalt has a quick question for you before I let you go. How much time do you think creators should put in every week? That is a wonderful question.
Yeah, the way it ends up working out for me, like I was really struggling when I was working 5 days a week. Luckily, my boss cut me down to just 4 days a week now. So as soon as the fights are over on Saturday, sometimes I even dive into tape study Saturday night. But if not, I pretty much spend all day Sunday and all day Monday on tape study. And then Tuesday, I'm like typing up notes and looking at stats and kind of working all that stuff together. And then I usually do my video on Wednesday. And then I'm still kind of digging into stuff after that too. But yeah, I mean, it probably, for me to really feel like I've prepared and got everything ready to go, I mean, it's at least probably 15 plus to 20 plus hours a week. And it depends on the week. Sometimes I've got time to do more, sometimes I don't. But yeah, it does end up being a pretty big chunk of time to really feel like I'm doing a good job.
Well, I think you do a good job. I think
appreciate that, man.
I like that you started your video by calling us fight nerds and degenerates, because
yep,
because I'm definitely a degenerate. But Eric, thank you so much. Yeah, I am. Thank you so much. But I hit one in a while, and you're like, oh my God. Like,
absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time, dude. Thank you. And guys, go follow Eric Betts Fights at his Twitter. It's listed down below. he's a great follow. He's funny and he's current and he's very active. So Eric, thanks again, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much for having me, bud. Have a good day.
You got it. You too. All right. So moving on, let me introduce my next two guests. So these guys are not professional content creators. They happen to be my friends, though, that I watch the fights with every week. So way before I got into this as a medium, these are the guys that see me drinking punishment shots for losing and yelling and screaming when people are getting hit with the balls. And they're just my buddies and they live next door. And they know that if they do anything wrong, you guys are going to see a live murder on YouTube and that I'm going to run next door and handle it. But without further ado, these are my best friends. I can't believe he put Slammy in here as his name. This is Greg and CJ, otherwise known as Greg and Slammy. And these are my jabroni friends. Guys, welcome to the broadcast. Welcome to YouTube in general. You still look like I want to buy a house from you, Greg.
Hey, you know, that's a used car, actually, is what I deal in, sir.
Nice. I will have to get no more DUIs then in my lifetime so I can one day get such a used car. Gentlemen, let's get right to it. What are your favorite and least favorite bets that you've either made this year or that you're laughing at me for making? I'll even flip the question around because you watch all the bets that are going on. So what do you guys got?
Well, that's fair. I've got actually one of my favorites that, as you know, I bet with you. I don't bet on my own because I'm a child and there's not a chance in hell I could bet on my own without losing all my money. So I like, even though it was a loss, I liked our bet, Derek Lewis versus Mr. Ty.
Yeah.
The shoey at the end made up for it, but also that fight in general, my friend, was just it was a work of art. I thought Lewis had him the entire way through, and then just, I mean, when Lewis went down hard, big boys go down hard. And that's one of two things I like. I like that and the fat man touchdown dance. So
nobody hates the fat man touchdown dance in football. It is the greatest moment. I don't know if the fat man touchdown is better than fat man falling at the one for me. I think they're both like awesome, tremendous feats of athleticism. But yeah, the fat guy TD is of course awesome. CJ, what about you, man? Or Slammy? Sorry, Slammy.
On this channel, all right.
Don't break.
I have a job with a family. I don't have a family. Listen, my favorite bet is going to shock you because I bet you're thinking it would go the other way. But my favorite bet was a bet that I made against you.
Shocking.
With some long shot 2-1 submission in a specific round that had me leaving the house for the first time in 2 years.
So this is not from this year, but this is, so the story behind this is it was the Brunson Till main event and I was crushing it. And I looked at CJ and I'm like, dude, I'm betting Brunson round 3 sub. It was 22-1. And he's like, why? And I'm like, I feel it. And I'm like, and if this hits, we're going to the bar. And he looked at me, he's like, you fucking son of a bitch. Like, I can't believe that hit. And we went to
no way that would hit.
It was just one of those days, man, where everything was hitting. Biggest or like worst losses to this point? Greg, I know yours, but I will let you tell the story.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Well, Rob, it's not
Lou. It's Lou, by the way.
Lou.
Whoa.
It's not the worst loss.
We all got first names. It's all right.
But it was the worst series of losses, and that was, what was it, 3 weeks ago now?
They're all blending together.
Yeah, the weeks are just kind of crushing.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, when we won every single bet, had we not added in the caveat of which round it was going to happen in.
Yeah, so that was 3 weeks ago. So that was Damon Jackson. I had him round 3 sub. We got a round 2 sub. Maverick with the sub. Brundage sub. Yeah, some of those round props would have been nice. That was definitely not.
We would have crushed some parlays, and that was the worst for me. But yeah, I'd say there it is. It just taught me a lesson that we don't necessarily go so granular with it. We go a little bit more widespread, which is, I think, a lesson. You can't lose the forest for the trees.
Right now, that's my problem. That's why the week off has been nice. I'm getting this clarity of removing myself from the forest to see the trees. Slammy, what do you got?
Well, speaking of trees, okay, my worst bet every time is betting Greg versus Bear. It's just the Bear never shows up. I never get my fight. Disappointing. I've been waiting for years.
Yeah, that bear be going down.
So
a juvenile black bear.
So I don't want to take up the whole show with this, but so this gentleman in the tie this has been like a 4 or 5 year conversation. If he can defeat, was it a 145-pound bear?
Oh no, 230. I outweigh it. I'm heavier than it's a juvenile black bear.
Right. And it's evolved into, well, where is it? Is it urban setting? Is it in a room? Is it in the wilderness? And this has evolved into the longest running joke that may never get paid off unless we go to the Poconos and it literally you get to face the bear. Yeah. Is the only way it can happen.
That's the plan. Yeah.
What do you guys have in terms of what fights are you looking forward to the most, and what trends have you seen so far this year in a non-yam bag division?
Gotcha. Hey, so the fight that I really wanted to see was literally anything that that Diaz was going to do. I wanted to see the Diaz fight, but as you know, being a true MMA fan, not the casual armchair one that I am, Dana's a little bit pissed at Mr. Diaz right now, as he said no to fighting Smash. But what I'm looking forward to, though, is now that Smash fight coming up, along with the Korean Zombie fight. I can't believe that's going to be the top ticket. I'm stoked. I think it could be a huge card. It's going to be a fun night overall.
Well, now here's another question for you guys from my man Eric. When are we starting up the Greg Slammy and Eric's Fight Bets Funhouse show? And are we thinking weekly or every 2 weeks or what?
Ooh.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have to get a little bit of a wider setup, because right now I'm basically sitting on Slammy's lap.
Was it like the lap?
Yeah. It's a little awkward.
Best seat in the house.
We do this without being on camera usually, but
I can confirm that reach arounds are to be had.
Yeah, well, it's just polite
at the Palace.
We need to use extenders. We have bellies.
Okay.
So what other fight? Actually, while you said that, let me change gears and ask you a question. Who wins in a boxing match, Diaz or Jake Paul, and why?
Oh, wow, Siege.
I got to go with my boy Jake Paul.
And why is that?
Because as an influencer myself, I gotta put the respect where it's due. You know?
I couldn't disagree anymore. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, and I have one reason why. Stockton.
Yeah.
One reason again and again and again, and it's Stockton.
I wonder. The only problem I have with that fight is if Diaz does his usual, where he's like, "Oh, I'm just going to start in the 8th round and win the last round," because then it's like, well, I would have won the streak because I won the last round. It's like, yeah, but you lost the 7 rounds before this because you didn't throw a punch. You need to get moving, have urgency, dude. You want to win the fight. It's interesting if that's going to happen. But what else do you guys have in terms of upcoming fights? We got UFC 273 coming up next week. Got a couple of events coming up. I brought up Prochazka and Teixeira coming up later. And also something that we've talked about on the side. What are your thoughts of a senior league for UFC? In terms of if it was possible to do it safely, are you here for it?
Absolutely. It'd be unbelievable. It would be unbelievable events to watch. I mean, the only problem would be that I think that GSP might qualify for it. So I don't know. In his shape, with him dipping out as early as he did, he looks stronger than he's ever looked before every time I see him on TV. And I kind of worry that he would just come in and clean out the division.
I'll say, even if it can't be done safely, I'm okay with it going on unsafely. That's how much I want that to happen. And in fact, I would prefer it actually that way.
CJ would prefer it being performed on ice. If you could do it on an ice rink.
Ice.
Yeah, that's now we're looking into maybe a whole different. I feel like Bellator would
definitely do it.
I mean, it's practically a retirement league as we go. But you guys have anything you want to plug? Slammy, I know you have a movie coming out in the next few months. If you'd like to plug it.
As a creative, there's a small independent studio out there that's got a gem of a movie coming out soon. And everybody should check it out. It's called Revenge Elephant Monday. The trailer is up on YouTube currently. So as soon as we can...
Which trailer? Hold on. Which trailer?
There's a theatrical trailer for the movie Revenge Elephant Monday.
I'm specifically asking who's who the voiceover guy was for it.
There
more
may
than
be
anything
a
else.
familiar voice.
Might be a cameo.
There might be a familiar voice in that trailer. You'll have to watch it and then maybe see it for yourself.
What's the channel there?
The channel name is Slamplex Studios. It's a small independent studio here in Pennsylvania. Not one word, no.
Slam space.
Slam. Well, okay, so Slamplex is one word, and then Space Studios. Okay.
SLAMPLEX Space Studios.
This isn't cautionary. This is a cautionary tale.
Calm down, Rob. Calm down. I'm still
Lou. It's Lou.
Lou. He said Rob. I don't know where I got that from. The movie Revenge Elephant Monday, starring Keanu Reeves, Liam Neeson, Marissa Tomei. Check it out.
Looks like you've already gained a fan.
Fantastic.
Greg, would you like to plug anything before we
Yeah, absolutely. Rob, it's not really a plug so much.
Lou! It's Lou, you son of a bitch.
It's not so much the plugs that we want to do. It's a lot more about the friends that we made along the way while plugging.
Yeah, it's
where's Tommy?
Touchy?
Where's Touchy to have done this show?
Touchy. See, you call him Tommy, you call him CJ, and you're Lou.
Well,
it's good to see you, Lou.
Because it's my channel. I can do whatever the hell I want on it. Guys, thank you so much for coming out and spending time.
All right, let's go get a beer a little bit later.
And apparently, I'm going to get a beer in a few minutes, so that's awesome.
Right.
So I guess we're going to wrap this up as quick as possible.
We're plugging the beers.
And Eric looks like he's plugging Slamplex right now, which is pretty awesome. So, guys, thanks for coming out. I appreciate it. All right.
Hey, love you, bud. Thank you for having us.
You got it. Nope, I wasn't letting him say anything else. I don't know what was going to come out of his mouth. So I was supposed to have Brady on in a few minutes, and I don't know where he is. So if Wheezy would like to hop on, he can do that. Or if anybody else in the chat has a, look, it's no shock that I have, my name is not Lou. I know I'm going to come out and say that right now. It's scandalous day. Well, next up, I'll introduce him, even though I probably don't have to. One of the hardest working content creators out there. More importantly, for me anyway, one of the co-founders of the MMA Engine, and a guy I am very proud to call my friend. We had some late night. Brady, it's like 5:57, man. I was working out. You're just next. But one of my guys, I'm very happy to call a friend. One of the hardest workers I know there, and he is probably battling with Locke for coolest guy on the internet at the moment. It's hard to Uncle Weezy, my man. What's cracking?
Not too much, man. Just had a little bit of lunch over here. Just been kind of putting some behind the scenes stuff together here for the future content that's coming up. And just enjoying the week off. Really enjoying the week off, man. 8 straight weeks of UFC really puts it on us content creators, especially somebody like me who has 5 different shows at least that I do every week. So when I get these weeks off, man, I do my best to recharge, get away from the UFC for like a week and just kind of unplug, enjoy life, sleep in, and then get ready to get back to it because it's gonna get hectic. We got another 7 weeks of UFC coming up here next, so gonna start working and getting ready for Stat Diggers that's coming up this Sunday.
Absolutely. I guess that means I'm doing another one of these shows in 8 weeks, huh? No, I know my next target date for the. I have to get another Macho Man shirt. It's the only one I own, but Wheezy. So like you and I, obviously, as we're working together, like we talk a lot about the bets and we talk a lot about like the metrics. And I may or may not have created several email accounts to go on your channels. I may or may not be Johnny Parsons. We have been in the same room, so like it's not official. But so to this point, your best bets, your worst bets to this point. We'll start there.
Yeah. So I wrote down some of my best bets, and I think really what I've done really well this year is just really hunt for value. If there's a favorite that's sitting there at -250 if I can find a way to get that line down to minus 180 or minus 175 by kind of just like isolating their win condition, you know, like something like a by round 3 or decision, if they're not much of an early finisher, or, you know, if you got like in the case of the Chris Daukaus fighting Jamie Pickett, right? Daukaus has never knocked anyone out. You know, and Daukaus was something like minus 300, but I was able to bet him at minus 185 for him to win by submission or decision. So, you know, it takes a almost unbettable minus 300 line and it gets it down to minus 180 where it's bettable. And what I'm finding is that there's 2 ways to look at those bets. You know, one of them is, okay, but what happens when they win by KO, right? And that's one way to say, all right, yeah, you know, instead of me just bucking up the 3 units to win 1, I only did 1.8. But if they win by KO, then that 1.8 goes out the window. But another way of looking at that is when I hit that bet, it only cost me 1.8 units to make 1 instead of 3 to make 1. So you always have to count in not only what you would have lost if the win condition that you predict doesn't come true, but you also have to add up what you saved at the end of the year, you know, in terms of finding these value spots. And when you're saving more than you're losing, it's a good philosophy. So you're risking less to make a little bit more, and you're kind of isolating win conditions and understanding how fighters win and lose. So one of them was fight ends by KO for Blades Daukaus last weekend. It was minus 180, right? Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 280. So I took a minus 280 bet there where I would have had to take 2.8 units to win 1. Brought it down to only having to bet 1.8 units to win 1. And here's what it was. Blades has never subbed anybody in his pro career.
Which is crazy. It's crazy to think that he hasn't.
Yeah, I know, right? And he's never even attempted a submission. You know, in over 60 takedowns that he got in his UFC career, never even attempted a submission. So you know Blades isn't getting a submission. And then Daukaus, he's actually never subbed anybody. He's only knocked out his opponents, either that or he has 1 decision win. So you're getting 2.8 units down to 1.8 units to win 1. And then I slammed it for 3.6 units so that I could win 2 units.
Yeah, you
and
did.
Of course, it ended by KO. It was beautiful. Krylov Craig, fight doesn't go to decision, was at minus 186. These are guys, there were something like over 40 combined wins, and 97% of them were inside the distance.
We thought that was crazy off the jump. The 2 of us were like, how is this set this way? Yeah.
You know, what was crazy about it was that was the same week that people were paying minus 550 for the fight doesn't go to decision for Pereira against Silva.
Yeah.
You know, and this thing's sitting out here at minus 186 all week. So I slammed that for 3.75 units to win 2. And, you know, so this year, what I've done really well, Rob, is just kind of
Lou. It's Lou. What is happening?
Damn it. Those of us that really know this guy over here, you know, we sometimes call him by his real name. But anyway, Lou, what I've done really well is hunt for value, spend a little bit less. And then when I find those spots that are just completely out of whack, you know, then I slam the shit out of them. It is Lou. It's Lou. So,
that's all right.
Yeah. Also, Dober McKinney fight doesn't go to decision, minus 200. That was easy. You know, McKinney had just fought 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
That one was hanging out there. Jalen Turner money line at minus 135.
Oh, that made me sad though. That did make me sad though.
I like Malarkey. I'm a fan of his, but that kid Turner, dude, like he looks 2 weight classes bigger than everybody that he fights. And he's very underrated. I think that he's going places. I really like his game. And then earlier in the year, I got the Figgy money line against Moreno at plus 157. Wow. And I got Figueiredo by decision at plus 600.
Ooh.
So
spicy.
Yeah, dude. Look, I was getting my ass shaved last year. You know, I was down something like 17 units at the end of the year after I started tracking. I had 5 events where I lost over 20 units combined in those 5 events, right? But this year, I'm up 19.22 units with a 26.67% return on investment. Sexy. So I've really turned things around. I'm back to plus money on Bet MMA Tips, and I credit it to really hunting for value, really finding ways to pay less to win the same amount of money, and really understanding how fighters win fights, how they lose fights, and how to be really cheap, compare prices and find those spots. And when you find those spots that are really out of whack, you smash the shit out of them.
Yeah, and you've been, what's the ass shaving streak up to now? Are we up to 6?
That's a good question, man. Because the last one I got wrong, and this is something else that I've learned, is I'm just done betting chalk and women's MMA, dude. It just never goes right for me. Even when I cash the bets, my sphincter's about this big. When those cards are being read, like some of them are split decisions. It's bad, dude. I've just, Kay Hansen, I was really confident in her that she was going to be able to beat Jazz Davicius. And Jazz Davicius just really handled her on the ground really well in ways that I didn't think that she'd be able to.
But that's not your least favorite women's bet. That I know for a fact that is not your least favorite one.
Oh, it's not. It's not. It's my least favorite women's performance was Cory Mckenna, because that was a very winnable fight for her. And, she just fought a game plan that really made it a very winnable fight for her opponent instead. And, she could be 3-0 in the UFC with that Contender Series win over Demopoulos right now if she would have just wrestled that girl. So that hurt, but, finding value and avoiding chalk, women's, like I bet McMahon last week, actually, because I thought she had a chance to out wrestle Rosa for 3 rounds. I bet Diakese because I thought he had a chance to out wrestle Borshev for 3 rounds. So, I've had a couple nice underdog bets as well. But I'm really just trying to smash spots that are way out of whack and really hunt for value, really be cheap. And that's really working out for me so far.
So now let's talk about, like, you're talking about women's MMA, like, staying away from that. So what trends are you seeing developing? Like you said, you're turning it around and about hunting value. Like, what other trends are you seeing in terms of, like, today we've talked about wrestlers becoming more prominent and having that tank. Like, what do you see other than that? Like, what are you seeing in terms of ways to attack cards from a betting perspective? What kind of fighters are you looking for?
Oh boy, yeah. See, I do find myself gravitating to wrestlers. That's really something that I've done ever since I started betting. Is I've always been I appreciate the ability to combine good fight IQ with the ability to fight to your opponent's weaknesses, simultaneously fighting to your strengths. And when you have a good wrestling game and the gas tank to push that for 3 rounds, you can always make the fight take place where you want it to. You look at a guy like Colby against Damian Maia. He stopped over 20 takedown attempts from Damian Maia, didn't shoot one, and just pieced him up on the feet. But Colby knew, hey, look, I don't go to the ground with this guy. I'll go to the ground with pretty much anybody else, but not Damian Maia, and you've seen a bunch of guys be able to do that. Kamaru Usman is one of the best examples of it.
Absolutely.
That he's got 100% takedown defense before the Covington fight, the second one. And I think even the takedowns that Colby did get, he maybe had 5 to 10 seconds of control time. So Usman's another one. I mean, he's one of the greatest of all time. George St. Pierre, one of the greatest of all time. Matt Hughes, one of the greatest of all time. These are guys who wrestle, they do it well, and they use that wrestling in order to make their opponents uncomfortable. So that's obviously a trend that everybody's slamming. Something else that I'm seeing is, I think what a really good thing to do is just to get 2 weeks ahead of every card, and then every favorite that you think is going to get juiced up, you can just put a unit or 2 on them, and then you can arb out by weigh-ins. I max bet Kizraev last week because he was sitting out there at minus 325.
Yeah, you got him at a steal.
Yeah, and I saw him out there. He's minus 400 on a few other books. And when I watched the tape on Kizraev and his opponent Tia Lulin, I was like, oh man, this guy's gonna fucking close minus 1,000. And if I do get nervous, I can just arb out. And
I know you're a pro. You said his last name right. You're a pro.
Yeah, man. Yeah, dude. I mean, I've been watching a lot of these Russians, a lot of these Central Asians. Yeah. Tia Lulin even. Yeah, that's a great one too. But I do butcher a lot of last names, but sometimes I get them right. And when I do, I'm pretty impressed with myself.
So last thing I want to ask you is so what fights are you looking forward to? And then, because this is I brought this up with Eric, and what's your advice for people that are just trying to start creating content? Because like I said before, I was mind blown by how much work you put in behind the scenes. Like, it's one thing to watch the show and be like, oh, he's put in like 6-7 hours of doing content this week. It's another thing seeing what you do to prep for like your entire week. It's crazy, mind blowing energy that you spend. Like, other than like what you're looking forward to, like one piece of advice would you give to people just trying to get into content creation?
Yeah. So I heard someone ask Brady this question a while back, and I really took it to heart when I heard Brady's answer. And Brady said, be consistent. That's number one. If you want people to take you seriously as a content creator, you need to be creating content every single week. And you need to decide early on, am I doing this as a hobby for like myself? Or am I doing this because I'm serious about wanting to put out my content out there for people to enjoy, for people to consume? People, I want them to take my opinion into consideration. Well, if you want that, you really have to be there every single week, and you have to take every card seriously, whether they're shit fights or whether they're great fights. And we see a lot of both. And I think you kind of have to have an idea of what it is that you are going to be doing a little bit differently than everybody else, because you have to keep in mind, if you want to get into this game, that there are a bunch of people out there that are already doing fantastic work and they're busting their asses. And when you see those people and you say, you have to add something, you have to do something just a little bit differently, and be honest with yourself about whether you're bringing that to the table or not. So if you can't bring something just a little bit different, a unique perspective, a unique style, be your own person. In addition to that, you have to combine that with the work ethic and the commitment in order to be there every damn week that the UFC is providing content. You got to be analyzing it. If you're willing to do both of those things, I think, and you have to be kind of likable too. You just can't be fucking criticizing everybody. You can't be, like I go off on my rants. I talk some shit. I say things that, and people can tell I'm getting fired up on stat diggers when I'm talking about certain
Cory Mckenna.
Yeah, Cory Mckenna, Al Hassan, Parker Porter. There are a lot of situations, where I was just like, man, I was fucking wrong about that. And you have to be ready in order to do it every damn week, and you have to be ready to take a little bit of criticism when you're wrong. But the most important thing is you watch the people who are doing well out there. They treat other people with respect. They're not talking shit. They're not starting fights with other people out there on the internet. They're taking everybody's opinions into consideration. You respectfully disagree with people, and you always, always, always do your best to respect the fighters. That's always number one, because those are the guys and girls that are out there putting their bodies, their health on the line. Anybody that has the balls or the temerity to get into that cage in their underwear and fight another trained killer that's their weight, they deserve our respect, and we should always do our best to always respect the fighters and the effort that they put forth.
I hear you, man. Last question before I give you plugs. What's the preferred grapefruit soda for a Paloma?
Okay, the preferred grapefruit soda for a Paloma is anything Mexican. Okay, you have two choices. You have your Mexican Jarritos grapefruit soda, classic. Okay, and then you have your Mexican Squirt, glass bottles at your local Latino grocery store. That's what it does. When you have that, you have every other ingredient in the house that you need. You have your tequila, you got a pinch of salt, and you got a lime wedge. Everything comes down to whether you're using bullshit soda or real fucking soda. Okay? When you take it from your Uncle Weezy, man, you get the soda right, everything else in the Paloma, it's going to come together like butt cheeks, and you're going to enjoy the shit out of that drink.
Weezy knows from talking to me enough that my preferred drink is, in fact, not the Paloma. I am just not a tequila guy. Tequila makes me, I believe the term is, makes me time travel. As in, I'm not sure how it's the next day. I stick with my scotch, and
Scotch is classic, man.
You can't have that like deep smoky voice without drinking enough scotch.
That's true, man.
Weezy, anything you want to plug before I let you go, my man?
MMA Engine, MMA Engine, MMA Engine. Check us out. We're going to be providing a ton of new content coming your way. We got the website coming your way very soon. Check out all the content there, all the content creators who are looking for another place to post your content, a place that we're looking for just pure MMA content. That's it. Look to post your content there. We will happily retweet all of your stuff on Twitter, promote your content. And you can find me at my YouTube channel, Uncle Weezy. You can find me on Pub Sports Radio doing Stat Diggers, the DFS show, and the watch along every Saturday. Man, anywhere you find dudes going balls deep on statistics of the UFC, you're going to probably find your Uncle Weezy there.
Balls fucking deep.
That's right.
Weezy, thank you so much for coming out. And obviously, we work together. Love you. This team is, you're bringing up, content creators coming on our channel. If you guys like Weezy, if you like Brady's approach, you guys are getting to learn me a little bit. I'm a complete psychopath. If you like our styles as presenters and you think I could probably have a drink with them and be friends with them, you're kind of the person we want on our channel. No ties needed.
I don't have any, man.
So, all right.
I haven't even shaved in a week because I haven't had to present content, dude. I'm a mess right now. Let me apologize for that, but I promise by Sunday, I'll get the face all cleaned up. I'll be ready for Stat Diggers.
Weezy, thank you so much for your time, dude, and have a great night.
Yeah, you too, man. Having a great show, dude. I love this.
Thanks, man. Well, we got one guest left, and if Weezy, I'm not even going to give him a big introduction because he's one of my favorite people, not just I've met since I do content. He's probably one of my favorite people that exists. If Weezy is like my older brother at this point, sorry, Weezy, I'm outing you that you're slightly older than me. If Weezy is my older brother, then next guy is definitely the younger brother I would have wanted. He works his ass off. You may know him better as DFS by the numbers. I know him as yet another co-founder of the MMA Engine. All the social media stuff that's going on right now is his doing, ladies and gentlemen, the legendary Brady.
What's up, man? What happened to 6?
Well, look, I'm new to this game.
You're good.
I'm getting used to. Look, the fact that I've gotten through StreamYard at this point is, kind of amazing. And now you're immediately. It's funny snapping. He said, "Well, can I wear sunglasses?" I'm like, dude, get your own gimmick. And then Gordo wanted to wear sunglasses. I'm like, what the hell's going on with all these people doing that? But Brady, what's up, my man? I'm sure at this point you've been watching the format.
Yeah.
So let's get right into it, man. Best and worst bets to this point. You've been doing great. Apparently, look at this. Daz even giving you a little bit of shout out. That is
stuff. Daz.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take Brady over an imposter that plays NFL, Ron Brady. Just unretired. But what do you got for your best and worst bets at this point in the year, man?
Yeah, so I guess it was kind of good that Weezy went on before me because it would give me some time to write things down. So I guess some of my favorite bets, McKenny brought me in a lot of money already. I had the McKenny Zion under 2.5 at -125. I had the McKenny Dober fight doesn't go to decision at -200. So both of those were good. I know you're not going to like this one. Marina Moroz +164. You got to let me have it. I don't get women's MMA right often. So I'm going to take that one and kind of brag there. Kyle Dawkins -200 versus Jamie Pickett. Bondar Gordon fight doesn't go to decision -180, and then they actually dropped the price down for some reason to -164, and then I added on. And then the last one that I did would be Davis and Figueiredo +157. Those are probably my favorite bets this year.
Yeah, I'm we haven't talked about my worst bets. I don't know how much time we have, but making a complete simp bet with Agapova. I didn't just have her to win. And I knew the bet was so bad, but I had Agapova and I had the round 3 submission at something I just was take my money. This is not going to hit. And it was ridiculous. But I knew the second that fight started, I'm like, they're all going to win this bet. This is just.
Yeah, I was not expecting Agapova to look that bad.
Well, look, in all fairness, she's crazy and I'm here for it. And if she needs a shoulder to cry on, I welcome her in open arms. So I think one of the things I've learned is don't make bets based on, being a simp.
It never seems to work out.
I'm sure Clint knows that too with betting Marcos, over, the last couple of years. He'll win half his bets, I guess. So
yeah, the redheads for Clint, right?
What do you got for the bets you regret or just, you hate?
Yeah, I actually have 4 different fights here. So the first one, I know you're not going to like this one. You have to bring it up. You have to talk about it. You have to learn from it. Parker Porter, man. Parker Porter, I bet him inside the distance at plus money. And not only that, I bet the fight doesn't go to decision with him and Badeau. No,
Did
no.
We have a sub prop there too, or just
no? I almost
just part of like the company bet, like the sub.
I think it was a company bet. Yeah. I mean, people were talking about Porter being the next champion. He's the GOAT. I kind of bought into the hype, and Badeau, that was probably the best Badeau we've ever seen. I could not believe my eyes.
He hung in there. I mean, his cardio actually didn't look awful. What else you got for a non-Porker bets?
I'm surprised Weezy didn't dig deeper on this. Cory Mckenna. So what hurt was I researched this fight like 2 weeks in advance. I got McKenna at minus 200. She literally closed at minus 360 on Bet Online. So beat a ton of line movement, and I figured, hey, she out-grappled Kay Hansen. She out-grappled Demopoulos. Why can't she out-grapple white belt Elise Reed? But, she went in there with one of the worst game plans I ever see. So McKenna minus 200, probably my least favorite bet of the year. Couple more. Dan Hooker, this one was recent, plus 102, got starched in the first minute. And then Carl Roberson, plus 104, kind of broke one of my own rules this year. And that rule is not bet bad fight IQ fighters, and Carl Roberson has bad fight IQ. So those are probably the worst 4. But other than that, it's been kind of a smooth year.
All right. By the way, I want to get this out of the way, since all I'm talking about is the terrible bets, which again, we just don't have that much time on YouTube. Brady, what was my best bet of the year?
What was your best bet? You had a couple one. You hit a Yam Bags.
Well, okay. Obviously hitting a point deduction is going to be like my hilarious favorite. But what's the big one?
Was it Guido Canetti first round KO?
I did like that. No, Kyler Phillips.
Kyler Phillips round 3 sub, and it was like plus 26.
3,500.
Plus 35, yeah.
And all downhill since then. It's been all downhill since that bet.
Dude, that call got you on the radar. I remember I had like Kyler Phillips round 2, so we were like a round apart.
It was funny. The sub prop was going around. Like, I think a lot of sharps were on the sub, but one of the things, like, when I look at some of these betting lines is I can't even remember his opponent's name at this point. I think I like blocked it out of my memory. Rojo. He had his last 3 losses were on the 3rd round, and 2 were by sub. I think Jourdain was the guy that just not. And I'm like, man, all right, it's a pattern. Like, the guy doesn't have 3-round cardio, and Phillips has always had wrestling. Maybe he'll get lucky. And it's all been downhill since there. But with the downhill there, the company is starting to gain momentum. So I'll take that trade off every time. What are you learning to this point, like in these 3 months? Are there trends you're seeing? Are there, from a betting perspective, from a DFS perspective, because I know you're an active DFS player, like, is there anything you're starting to see that's just weird, like, as the year has started?
Not really. I mean, I wrote an article which really helped me, just like talking about some of my rules, and I feel like I've done a really good job, following those rules outside of the Carl Roberson bet. But other than that, I guess it's just kind of like Wheezy, like women's MMA. I mean, laying chalk on women's MMA especially, like, I'm so confident in some of these fighters, and then they just go out there and it just doesn't play out how you think. So I guess one thing I'm learning and going forward into, continue the year is going to be, don't lay chalk on women's MMA. So that's probably the one thing I've learned.
Gotcha. And what are we looking forward to the most in terms of, the fights that are coming up next weekend, and then there's a couple of main events that we already have. It doesn't even have to be a fight, but like in general, like, what are you looking forward to the most coming down the pipeline here?
Well, first off, the release of the website, that's going to be nice.
I'm trying.
No, take your time. No, I got my wedding coming up in May. That's going to be fun. I'm planning on taking a trip to Vegas as well. Just planning on, going to some fights this summer. Lots of stuff. But in terms of fights, I guess a couple that stuck out. I know people in that came on said Chimaev, definitely with you there. I'm looking forward to Gaethje Oliveira. I believe
we haven't even brought that up yet. I know, it's like,
yeah, that fight is going to be phenomenal. Gaethje's one of my favorite fighters, and I like Oliveira as well, especially since he liked my tweet the other day. But Gaethje Oliveira is going to be a banger.
Who do you got in that one? Forget about the odds. Forget about the line. Just who do you like?
I want to say Gaethje. I want to say Gaethje knocks him out, but Oliveira is dangerous on the feet, on the mat. It's a good fight. I don't know what the odds are, but it's a good fight.
What do you, if Oliveira wins, because this is one of the more widely talked about fights that's potentially happening. Oliveira and Makhachev. What do you like? Is it terrifying?
And it's funny you actually said that. I looked at the future odds, and they have like Islam like minus 350 future odds over Oliveira.
Wow.
Minus like 350. So I don't know. I think Islam's the real deal, but yeah, I can't wait to see him fight. Who he fights next.
I wonder if they'll sideline him just to get to make sure that he gets the title shot. They may just, I don't know how, unless they want to do like him and RDA. I don't know. Be interesting.
Yeah, I think he'd beat RDA pretty handily, honestly.
Any advice to people? I'm kind of on the fly with these questions as they've come up, but any advice to new content creators in terms of like what to look for prep wise, like video wise, like, because you're, the technical term would be you're a fucking pro. So
yeah.
like what do you got for like all of us, like to learn from you?
Yeah, like Weezy said, consistency is probably the biggest thing. Like if you put out a video at a certain time, certain day, and you continue that, routine for, weeks to months to years, people are going to start watching, people are going to start joining on, you'll start to grow and build. That I think interaction as well. I think Post talked about it earlier, like people, interacting with, other guys. I think that's big. And then just hard work in general. You got to work hard, pretty much everything you do in life.
I think the one thing I know a lot of you guys like, because we keep talking about us, but like the one thing that I like about the company that we have so far is we are like insane hard workers. Like, Brady, Weezy, and Monk are like slaving away. Like there's beast in it, man, like constantly. And then like, I'm like the fourth smartest guy of the group, which is like, I got no problem. I got no problem with that. Like I'm humbled to work with such smart, hardworking people. Like it's really nice. And it gives me a lot of hope in like our future as a group, because we're so like-minded and like making the company better. So, Brady, is there anything you want to plug that you don't have to plug the channel, but I mean, like, would you like to plug anything, your own stuff? You're like, do you have a cookbook coming out? Like, I don't know, man.
I'm taking the week off. I'm coming back Sunday, Stat Diggers with Uncle Weezy. Looking forward to that. But just looking forward to 7 consecutive weeks of MMA. Last stretch was 8 weeks. It was a grind. Got kind of worn out towards the end. So hopefully, take it easy and hopefully have a good 7 weeks coming up.
Gotcha. Brady, thank you so much for spending time with me, man. I appreciate it. And I guess I'm going to start wrapping up the show, man. I will talk to you soon, my man.
Talk soon. See you.
Well, we've come to the end of the show, guys. If you hung in there, I really do appreciate it. Like, I wanted to do something on an off week here. I know a lot of people aren't doing content, and I thought maybe this was a fun way to do it. Mix and match guys with experience, guys trying to make a break, my dopey friends, like mix it up. Apparently, you now know my name is not Lou. If you've learned anything in this broadcast, I guess that's it. But if you didn't hit the like button, please do. It does help us out. Please subscribe to the channel. We'll have product updates soon. We're in QA for these applications I'm making. The Fight Studio is just about wrapped up. That's for content creators to use their backgrounds. The customer-facing website with our optimizer, with our DFS projections, that's just about done. I get to start working on the research center, which, if I could just tell you what it is for like 30 seconds, 45 seconds, basically everybody has a different process when they make bets. One of mine has been, I have a spreadsheet. Here's all the fights. Here's the opening lines. Here's the DFS opening salaries. Here's like over under, fight goes distance. And then I have content creators that I have respected for years. I don't want to name names because I don't want to forget somebody, but Brady, like Monk, Weezy, these are all guys that I have always like followed. I mentioned Dan Levy before. I think Dan has a really unique perspective in terms of he goes beyond stats and he knows like actual stories behind the scenes. Dog or pass, because Paul seems to respond to my tweets. So like I'll throw dog or pass in there. And there's so many others that like I really, really like that have been out there that have helped me become a gambler. It's specifically in MMA that I have the spreadsheet. I look at like, these guys are picking this for this reason. And then it helps me with that and tape watching and helps me form my opinion. So what I've done is I've taken this process and I've automated it so that you'll have a page and it has all your fight data on it that you want. The odds, striking stats, grappling stats, whatever you want for a certain fighter, line movement. We're going to get, Weezy's been working on this prop template. it's going to be able to figure out historically at this weight class with their fighter histories, like, are these odds lined up right, like over under, looking for any kind of gambling edge that we can find. That's going to be available. And then a notes section where you can be like, well, I got this guy, I got that guy, like this guy's, creator A says this, creator B says that. We're not going to fill that in for you because we want you to watch their shows. We're huge content creator friendly at this company and site. And we want to help people, whether you have an existing channel and you want to just either use our software or help us promote you, or if you're just trying to get in the game, like we want to help. Like, I'm new to this game. Like, if I can pass what I'm doing on other people, like, I'm really happy to do it. But all this stuff is coming out in the next couple of weeks. We're ironing out just, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, like final push for development. And that's it. Like, please be on the lookout. If you want to give me a follow at Lou Betcha, like, I would appreciate it. I try my best to be kind of funny. I guess that's debatable. Depends on your sense of humor. But thank you so much for spending time with me today. Guys, enjoy your weekend. We'll see you next week. Every Friday, 5:30 p.m. Monk and myself do the happy hour where Monk breaks down the DraftKings elements of fights and I break down the betting element. But I have a twist on it where I'm giving away like kind of crazy plays and, like the Lambo show that Narco does, which, by the way, if you haven't seen that, is another one of my favorite shows. But guys, have a great day. Stay safe. See you next week.